Okay, friends, this is frankly an experiment. Why? Because I have been off and on so blissed out today. I've practically been dizzy with it. Um, I have various crystals around me all the time. Let me see if I can show you this one. The lights might be too bright here. I found this one down around Hot Springs. No, I don't think I'm going to be able to get it for you. I don't know how well you can see. It's 1 point, and it's a fair-sized one, and it's my pal, and it's kind of a mega crystal. Most of my other ones are smaller. I might as well introduce you to my crystal family here. This has got 1 point on one end, and then it's got a little family of points on the other one. The lighting's not perfect for this. And then this is some kind of interesting amethyst that's got 1,000,001 points. I'll have to do better on the lighting. Okay, so anyway, I've got lots of crystals here, and it seems like see, I told you it was an experiment. I've got the big one at my solar plexus now, and it's like no matter where I put any of them, it's just feels so good. Okay, now today is March 19th of 2011, and this morning before I turned the internet on, I wrote 3 journals. It's been a while since I did that, and they rock. All right. Jeez. It's like I'm drunk, you know? How am I going to do this? I'll give it a go. Now the thing is, if I'm remembering well, and I might not be, in my last journal I mentioned bliss. And in a way I had set out to, you can't explain bliss, but in a way I had set out to talk about or get to the point where, you know, I've had these crystals for a long while, and it's not been an always thing that whatever chakra I put the crystal next to, it just goes yummy, yummy, give me some more, you know. It does. It feels practically orgasmic. It feels freaking good. And so there's kind of a huh and a why, and I wanted to kind of try to go there. But what I discovered was I'd bitten off more than I could chew. And so that journal was quite long enough without ever really approaching there. So I don't know that I'm going to get there now, but I'm going to try to read this journal to you. It's the first one from the morning and the Mayan day. Now wait a minute. I'm saying, oh, this one's from the 18th. Okay, so this is not from the 19th. Mayan day was 10 Vulture, or wisdom. And this one's really interesting. It's called Breaking the Control of the Inner Illuminati, the hidden power in observing. You know, we externalize things All the time we're pointing fingers and saying, that's the bad guy over there, or over there, or over there, or somewhere else. We're never doing this with it, are we? All right, let's have a look-see here. How goes the flow of things out there for you? My other half, my other part, my other me. Yeah, that's you. How are you doing? Are you letting go of all sense of limitation of any kind? At least for a little while each day. This is so beneficial. Its blessings and benefits will flow out into the other parts of your life as well. Let go of limitation. Let go and be free. How to do this? Well, since all beliefs are the very structure of your self-chosen limitations, let's have a look at your beliefs. It is time to watch and self-observe closely to see what you see. If you are in heart and watching, the beliefs and limitations will expose themselves to you. You will see their tender hearts if you are quietly watching. Your inner guide is always on duty, never sleeps. There are many things that are at first shocking about waking up. To find we have in our minds structured the whole world and reality basically backwards, inside out, and upside down is a major shock. The mind can't really handle that. It doesn't want to. Yeah, said more correctly, it won't. It has to be forced to. Even then, it will rebel. So, it's time to get wise to the inner Illuminati. Did you know you had them within you as well as outside? Well, you do. We all do. To simply watch and observe quietly is more powerful than the mind can begin to believe. You are divorcing or separating out from mind a good bit. That is, if you want to awaken. You'll never do it by remaining in your mind. Letting mind boss you around and make all your decisions, that's not the way. The inner Illuminati works through the mind. The inner controller has you under its spell. It's no different from being controlled from the outside. Only the dark force does all its work from within. Now, before I continue, let's get one thing straight. To awaken, you are going to see, and you are going to have to see how you are in charge of you. The blame game must stop, at least for the time spent with these journals. No more pointing fingers at life, at organizations, at people, or groups of dark beings, yada, yada, yada. All of that is over. It is simply not possible to be in heart and to blame others for simply anything. Is that an hard saying? I know that it is. Mind wants to reject it, so I'll say it again. It is simply not possible to remain in heart and blame others for anything. Heart does not work that way. You see, heart does not partake of illusion. When you enter heart, you enter reality, capital R. That is not found via the head or the mind. Now, considering that basically everything we've been told or taught, from history to science, philosophy, archaeology, DNA science, is basically both wrong and ever so incomplete. Well, oh, that shows up the huge contrast that will be found between the heart and the mind. And do you see it yet? From unreality to reality, capital R, is a major jump, a huge leap, actually, rather like off into the great void. Reality is that different from all that we've been taught, trained, and educated to believe. Now, it's time to have a bit of compassion for your own soul, for your own mind. Having been taught and programmed with all of this nonsense, it's just too much of a leap to make comfortably. So, mind balks. It's only natural. It's time to become an expert, though, at watching the mind's operations, sitting back quietly and just observing it in action, rather like watching a child. What forms does mind's rebellion to heart reality take? What does that look like? Let's start with distraction. Suddenly, you'll have a thought about something else. Someone else calling you to pay attention to that, or so it seems. Another tactic or response to reality is for mind to go all fuzzy. Suddenly, you can't seem to have a clear or coherent thought. Have you experienced that? Most of us have. Mind fuzzes out when the contrast it's asked to accommodate is just too much for it. This is like a little mind tantrum. It's saying, no and hell no, I won't consider that. Take it away. I don't want to look. Wah! There are many other ways mind will behave to maintain its position of power and control in your life. For that's exactly what is going on at this stage. Now, I know some of you are beyond this, and that's the good news to the others, for it would be rather terrible if that behavior of mind was to go on forever. It won't. But you've got to separate out from your mind to win the victory here. And we all have to deal with some of mind's tantruming. First, it takes some separating out just to watch and observe the mind, to sit back and do that. When we're totally within the mind, we cannot be observing it. This watching is actually the first step to freedom from the inner Illuminati. When first noticing these mind tactics, don't do anything about them. Simply watch. See them in action within the self. It's very illuminating, I can tell you. You'll likely be shocked. You didn't realize you had an inner controller exercising such power and actual dominion over you. That's my bet. You identified with that. You don't know, we don't know, or we wouldn't put up with it. But now, you're knowing. Change, interchange is happening right now. Just by you hearing this. By you knowing about it. That's producing interchange. After you've watched and observed for a time, without trying to fix, without correcting or looking down on the self or any part of it, just unattached watching, that's what works best. After a while, you'll know when it's time to move on to the next step. If you're staying in heart a lot, then the next step will just come automatically one day. You won't have to do anything. It'll just happen, and you'll be watching. Before sharing the next step with you, let's look at what was just said. Do you notice the big contrast or change from the mind's way of being and doing things? There's a significant difference between doing something and sitting back and watching it get done through you. That's a major contrast between heart and head. Head thinks it knows. Heart just knows better. They really don't operate the same. So, we begin to see how the inner Illuminati is both tied into mind and to the will. It's quite used to controlling things, and the main thing it controls, that would be you. That's what the Illuminati do, on the outside and on the inside as well. You are quite used to being controlled without your knowing it. This is a big part of waking up, discovering how we've been so controlled and manipulated for all of our lives, and most importantly, without knowing it. That was their big secret, the core of their power and control. It was because we were unaware, unawake, that they could get away with their plans and projects. Well, no more. That time is quite over. They might not know it yet, but we do. The net result is that you will have some inner battles going on, some jockeying for power and control, just like we see in the outside world. During this stage, it is crucial to develop your powers of observation. That's what is going to win this for you. Just trying by brute force to exert your will over the self will not get it accomplished. And if you've got a few years on that chassis of yours, you'll know what I mean. The will is still too eaten up with, too controlled by the inner Illuminati. They will trick you that way. So just sit back and plan to do a lot of quiet observing. Let them continue to have their way with you. But with this difference, you are quietly watching. Then, as I said, at some point, you will witness the inner self simply take action. You will see how suddenly, one day, you will break free from the mind. You'll let the mind go its way, thinking whatever it wants to, and you will simply ignore it. You'll just look away. You'll be focusing elsewhere. Very nice. This will represent the healing of the inner will. During the watching, the observing stage, believe it or not, the inner will is being healed quietly in the background, healed and educated. It is learning quite a lot. It is breaking free from the inner Illuminati, very quietly and in secret, just like they do their own business, always in secret. theirs won't likely be a complete. Now, why did I say theirs? I tell you, I was high. There won't likely be a complete 100% transformation at any one point. It's a continuum, but you'll begin to see your healed inner will taking control in that strange way, the one where you aren't doing, you're just watching. It's bizarre. In a way, it's my own healed inner will that is writing these journals, or participating in that. You see, our true inner will is connected to our higher self, not to the mind or the inner Illuminati, not to the external will. So the will itself converts in this way from external to internal. Once controlled entirely by mind, now, after the healing, it is higher self that steps in. This is where you find yourself being danced, as they say. Eckhart Tolle speaks of this, and before him, Anthony de Mello, and probably before him, a whole chain of others have observed this. It's rather a marvel, you see, yet so subtle. People watching you from the outside wouldn't know. They can't see the difference. It's entirely internal, but such a major change, such a break with the old way of doing and being. People can sense something is different, but they won't know what. This is a significantly better way to live the life, but don't expect others to understand any of it. It is not likely that they will. Only those who have also been there and done that will get it, and likely only if you share it with them. It's very subtle, and there's no need to share. Best to keep this internal for a while. Your change will be faster that way. Yes, there's a big change in your vibration too. Those farther along the path homeward, capital H, will be able to sense this. We are switching from head vision and external will to heart vision and internal will. External will is controlled by externals. You look to society and books and authority figures and others for the rules, the regulations of the game. Control is thus external. The man in heart will have none of this. He has separated out from it. Subtle, but then not so subtle. Depends on the perspective being taken. These are some of the biggest steps you will ever make, even if they are largely invisible to the masses. They are still huge. Once you've gone within and made or are making this transition, you'll know what I'm saying here. The one who remains locked in mind will never know. And that's too bad. But remember to respect him, for that's his choice. None compels. Not ever. There, I made it through. See you soon.